Hello, hello, and welcome to Fine, I'll Talk About It, the podcast where we say the quiet parts out loud. Real talk, straight to the point, no fake positivity. I'm your host, Danielle Young, and today I'm joined by Maz Alexander. Maz is a mental well-being coach, a social worker, author, and a speaker based in London. And today we're talking about mental health as preventative maintenance and why it matters right now. Maz, welcome to Fine, I'll Talk About It.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here and you joined us all the way from London.
Yes.
So, why don't we get started by you telling me a little bit about you, about your story, and how you decided on this preventative maintenance for mental health?
Thank you, Danielle. Yes. So, as you said, I'm across the pond in London. I I started this journey both professionally and personally quite a number of years ago. So I have a background as a social worker for adults. So I just want to make that clear, not children. When I say that, people say, "Oh, you take people's kids away." No, I don't. So I worked with adults who had acute mental illness, and I've been doing that for 18 years. I and it was doing that job, which is quite stressful, especially, if you work in the health and social care sector.
Hmm.
And I took those skills and developed them as well as becoming a coach because it occurred to me, Danielle, from a long time ago, even before I got burnt out myself. I thought, well, nobody is looking out for the person who's giving the care. We focus on the person who is receiving the care, rightly so. But when we burn out, we're kind of discarded. So I wanted my business to just honor those people, which are primarily not exclusively women, but some of us are nurturers, that can be the case. So yeah, I took those skills and I used them just to help um, especially high achieving women to get the self-care that they need. So and I had my own personal struggles, Danielle. I had a few depressive episodes a few years ago. I was working in some toxic work environments that were causing me to question everything, and they were kind of endorsing some unethical practices. So I'd had enough of that, and I said, yeah, it's time to try and get some healing and to escape this torture, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really like burnout that led you to focusing on your own mental health.
Yes. And just to stipulate, Daniel, yeah, yeah, burnout within the workplace, but also the emotional burnout that came. So there were other factors, of course, but they all seemed to coincide. So this was about 15 years ago, and I recall, yeah, dealing with certain family members who also had narcissistic personality disorders, dealing with loss and grief and various other things, divorce, lots of transitions in life. So that's what led me on the path to where I am now. Yeah.
How did you decide that this is the area you wanted to go into? Like,
Yeah.
what led to that
But,
decision?
yeah, in particular, I've always, when it comes to mental health and well-being, I've always been inquisitive. I have always been a philosophical person. So I remember being 6 or 7 years old, and that was one of my earliest memories, having a concept of self. So I was a weird child. So I'd be in the mirror saying, "Who am I?" Touching my face. Who am I? Who am I? And I remember feeling conscious that I was carrying me around in my body. So yeah, I know, weird, but I'd ask
No, it's
myself
not
those
weird. It's
questions.
insightful.
Well, yeah, but um, I was quite young to be having that. And I remember my mother, actually, she was a psychiatric nurse. And back then, they used to have asylums. So, they put everyone who was deviant in any way, so you didn't have to have a mental illness. You may have just been an unmarried mother, or whatever it was. They put you in that asylum, and I
Oh,
was
wow.
fascinated. Yeah, I used to go to work. This was, it's late 80s, early 90s, and I'd go to work with my mom, and I'd be like, wow. And I remember having the thought even back then, one day I'm gonna set them all free. That's
Aw.
what, yeah, I used to say, Mom, why, open the door, let them out. And she's like, they're not well. We can't let them out. Like, they need to go out. So that's what I did. I did that about 30 years later, and that is still my role. Literally set them free. But now in the coaching role, that's I like coaching because it's more empowering. And so I'm not in my coaching role. I don't work with acute mental illness. I work with people who are like me, like you, who are before they get to the burnout stage. So yeah.
I love that. Like being so self-aware at such a young age and being so aware of other people and, their, I don't want to say condition, but yeah, the condition that they were in and just wanting to set them all free. I mean, that's really that's really being self-aware at such a young age.
I
So
was just fascinated, Danny. I was just fascinated with their presentation. So obviously, and I still am, but obviously, so being a child, I'd never seen that. So you'd see some were obviously in distress, and then some were talking away to themselves. And I'd be like, "Hi, what are you talking about?" Now, of course, today that would be completely illegal. You can't take your children on the psych ward. But I would be having these conversations, and they'd be telling me weird and wonderful stories. I was fascinated. It fueled my imagination, and yeah, and I just kind of felt that, I suppose it was empathy, that, oh, they're sad because they're locked up and people are mistreating them, and that's not very nice. So yeah, it
yeah.
was just my morbid fascination.
No, I love that. I mean, it's exhibiting such compassion at such a young age, and how did that affect your view of mental health later on? Seeing those people at such a young age and then, growing up and realizing, oh, you know what, they you know, probably did have some mental illness and were you able to carry that compassion forward into dealing with, you know, the mentally ill now, or people with mental illness, I
Yeah.
should say.
Yeah, because and that's what I want to say, because we're when it comes to mental health, it's useful to think of it as a spectrum. But in answer to your question, yeah, it helped me. I was very much aware of the stigma. So back then it was more, and I think we now, yeah, we talk about it more, and it seems to be more acceptable. But that stigma actually is still alive and well. So when people see people who maybe are a bit different, there's that, because we see it with the media,
Mm,
portrays people with mental health conditions as psychopaths, as, oh my gosh, they're killers, they're dangerous,
yeah.
they're bizarre, they're all these things that you don't want to be if you're just trying to live your life and manage a condition that can be quite debilitating. So even from back then, so yeah, it's just my nature to be inquisitive, and also just wanting to help. And I still to this day, so whether I'm dealing with a patient with dementia or schizophrenia, I'm fascinated um, by the story. And yes, some of it is delusional, and yes, it can be perceived as quite bizarre. But nonetheless, I think it's important that we treat people, um, you know, as people, essentially, as people, as your family members, because as they say, 1 in 4. I don't know what it is on a global scale, but here in the UK, at least 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health condition throughout their lifetimes. And
Wow.
the true figure, Danielle, is probably a lot higher, because not everybody's going to go and get diagnosed. Not everybody is going to even acknowledge that they're suffering, and a lot of people do suffer in silence, which we'll talk about a bit more later.
Yeah. What are some of those stigmas that you're finding that are just the ones that you're like, you know what? No, that's not true. This is not true. Like, let's just break those myths right now and let people know, like, hey, this, just because someone has this, doesn't mean there's so many labels and so much stigma around mental health
Mm,
that I think it's really important that we start dispelling those myths and, really getting to the heart of what this is and, you know, letting people know that it, it's not crazy or insane. Those labels that people give other people, like
mm.
those stigmas. So what are some of those stigmas, labels, myths that you find that just need to be broken?
Yeah. Oh, wow, Daniel. Where do we start? There's so many.
Yeah.
Um,
Top
it,
three. Top three, top
yeah.
five.
Well, it starts in the language, doesn't it? Because I just wanted to say from the outset, when we talk about mental health simply refers to the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act. And we all do that, don't we, Danielle? We all think, feel, and act. So we are human beings. So when we do this othering thing, like we do with people, as if oh, they're contagious, we don't talk to them, we don't associate with them. That's quite damaging, because how can you expect somebody to recover, to be rehabilitated in society if you are treating them like a second class citizen? So, yeah, like I say, language is the first thing. Mental health is what we all have. It's an allocation, just like we all have physical health, just like you might have spiritual health, but it's something that we have, and we have to acknowledge, just like there are times, in your physical health, Danielle, for example, if you have flu, we're not going to say, oh my gosh, Danielle, she's physically ill. Oh my gosh, look at her, stay away from her. It's just not what we say, is it? So
Right.
we need to change the way we think. And even in the workplace, if you break your leg or break your arm, you'll get the cards, the chocolate, the sympathy. Oh my gosh, Danielle, are you okay? What can I do for you? If you try and call in sick and say, listen, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling hopeless, they're not going to understand that. Or your boss is less likely. They'll tell you better get to work. You need to work.
Right.
You don't get that level of compassion, empathy, or sympathy. So the way we think about people's state of being is needs to change. So that's one thing. And as I've addressed before, thinking that certain people, particular people with labels such as schizophrenia and those kind of bipolar affective disorder, which used to be known as manic depression, all of those things, we have stereotypes about them, um, and they're not helpful. They're not helpful because what they do, if we think that somebody's a maniac, then we're not likely to have relationships, meaningful relationships with those people. So let's start to see ourselves, um, as human beings first. And when I say on the spectrum, I'm not trying to minimize people with a clinical diagnosis. But if you look in the DSM, the DSM-5,
Yep.
the diagnostic statistical manual that guides, we use it over here too. Um, Basically, when you go to the doctor, Danielle, you tell the doctor what you think is wrong. He diagnoses you, or she diagnoses you, based on a collection of symptoms. That's how we do it. Now, if you stay in a state and you have enough of those symptoms, you will get a diagnosis. You may go to another doctor, he'll give you a different diagnosis. So what I'm saying is that there are times that we have experienced depression, maybe not on a clinical level. We have experienced prolonged anxiety. We've experienced all kinds of things. A bereavement, a common thing that we all have experienced throughout our lifetimes. We've lost loved ones. Um, were you in your best mental health? Were you in your best state at your optimum health when you had a loss, Danielle? Can you remember
Oh,
any loss that
no,
you've had?
no,
Yeah, you're not
no. I'm
100%.
still not okay.
Right. It
Yeah,
can take a lifetime. Yeah, it can.
yeah,
So, but because of that, Danielle, that doesn't define you. We don't say, oh my gosh, that she's a leper. Danielle, you must be cast out into
yeah,
the desert because you are not 100%. So that's the thing. And in terms of the myths, in terms of because these things as well, Danielle, stop people from accessing services because
right.
they either feel unworthy, they feel like, oh no, I'm not severe enough. People compare their traumas. I think we need to stop doing that. So a lot of the patients I see, like, oh, my doctor said I should see you, but I don't think I need therapy. I don't, there's worse people who've been in the war. And I'm like, yeah, but we don't compare our traumas. And
Yeah,
especially here in the UK, because over here, imagine we get free healthcare for a lot of it. We have a national health service. And imagine, Daniel, these people who get free healthcare are turning it down. I'm like, are you crazy? That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we need that
So
here.
right. Free healthcare, and you're saying no. So yeah, so those kind of things. So I would just say in terms of our views, let's not perceive people as um being like Michael Myers in the
Right?
movies, yeah, that kind of thing. Let's not live up. Let's educate ourselves. If we don't know, let's find out, oh, what's that condition? Because I'm telling you, within our family units, we all have somebody who may be sick, maybe not mentally, but they have a condition. And we see that there is a prevalence, especially with the older adults, with things like Alzheimer's disease and various types of dementia, which are also classified as mental health disorders. We call them organic mental health disorders rather than functional health disorders. And see, none of us are immune. None of us are immune to these things, regardless of age, social class. And the final thing I'll say, Danielle, about that is just during COVID lockdown period. Now, I can't speak for everybody, but there were losses.
Hmm.
People had to reevaluate themselves. Even if you were doing well in business and what have you, things changed. We were kind of, when we came out of it, we're left in a state of languishing. All of that, and I use COVID as the example because when society, if you look at the World Health Organization definition of what mental health and well-being is, they talk about, and I'm paraphrasing, they talk about it's when you or I can live up to our full potential, we can make a contribution to society, and cope with the normal stresses of everyday life, etc., etc. And I use COVID because that was a time that disrupted that. That was something extraordinary that we couldn't prepare for, or during times of natural disaster, war, famine, anything that can happen to any nation. We don't operate as normal. So then what do you do? What do you do? You can't cast everybody out
Right.
and isolate them. So we need to really address this stigma and about how we treat people who may have a clinical diagnosis. And it's important to point out here, Danielle, that um, you even if you don't have a diagnosis, your mental health might be in a poor state. So someone who has a diagnosable mental health disorder, such as they might have clinical depression, they may have anxiety disorders, but they may be at any given point in their life have better mental health than you. You might be stuck in a dead end job. You might hate the husband, and you're just drowning because you think like, oh gosh, I have to live this life. So yeah, our mental health is something that fluctuates throughout our lifetimes. It never stays the same. No matter how successful you think you are, there'll be something that comes along to challenge it. So yes, those are just some of the few, but there is so many, and we'll talk about those as well throughout. But they're harmful misconceptions about how people's capabilities. It stops people from being, as I say, rehabilitated, employed. Although there are laws over here, we have the Disability Discrimination Act, Equality Act, all kinds of things, but people still get discriminated against. So if you have a disability and you go for the interview, Danielle, and you said, by the way, I have bipolar affective disorder. They're going to be like, thanks. They're not going to tell you that that's the
Yeah.
reason. They're
Yeah.
not going to say that's why we're not employing you, but it doesn't look good on paper unless they're really, kind of modern, inclusive employer. Sorry, one more thing.
Go, go,
um,
go. Yeah.
rem- cultural norms and things are always
Oh, yeah.
changing, so we have to remember that what was seen as eccentric 20, 30 years ago is widely celebrated now. I mean, if you go back even to the Greeks and back in those mythological days, you were seen as a genius if you had certain mental illnesses, not, I say illness, because if we look at something like bipolar disorder, which I think they think Vincent van Gogh had, the creativity that comes out of that, the especially, if you're an artist and all of that. So we celebrate these things and their creativity, but some of these people were also afflicted. People like Florence Nightingale, Winston Churchill. So I just say all that to say, Daniel, that despite having these labels, these people were influential leaders. They were artists. They were prime ministers, kings, queens. So anyway, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. No, that's a great explanation. I mean, just because you have something doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that you're useless. It doesn't mean that you can't function. It's just a matter of finding, ways to work with it. And I think so many people now don't understand that. They
Mm,
think of, oh, well, this person is just crazy. It's like, well, but it goes deeper than that. Maybe they're just, I mean, I don't know. Right now, I mean, the world feels like it's on fire. So
yeah.
a lot of people here in the US are facing, job loss and food scarcity and financial loss. And, you know, that creates a tremendous amount of stress. And that all settles in our body, that settles in our minds. And
Mm,
it's not permanent, but it's temporary, but it still affects everything, like how you come across, how you act, how you behave towards others, your thought process. It really pulls out limiting beliefs. And, I think as a society, we need to be more accepting of people
mm,
who are different than us. So I'm really glad that, you're bringing awareness to this, and it's something that I feel very passionate about. Um, and let's talk about the preventative side. So we touched on it a little bit earlier. So for those people who are like caregivers or, you know, dealing with a special needs child or has some, something going on in their life that is causing them extra stress, what are your thoughts on that?
yeah. Have some tequila. Oh yeah, only
Vodka in my
no, only
case.
yeah, rum, lots of it. No, sorry, that's somebody might actually follow that terrible advice. Um, no, I think Danielle, you know what? Sorry, I'm laughing because some of my patients, one of them said to me the other day, she said, Maz, but you're crazy. Which one of us needs to take the medication? I was like, probably me, but they didn't catch me yet. I said they catch you, so you better take the medication. But it made me laugh because yeah, I'm a little bit eccentric, and people are often saying I'm crazy. But anyway, um,
No, you're
the
you.
point. Well, this is it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You have to. I'm unconventional. Yeah. But I think in answer to your question, the first step. So for those people who those people are, you and I and me. Is to acknowledge the first step of any issue is to acknowledge how you're feeling. You know, if you're not quite right, your body will let you know first. And
Oh, yes, it
just
will.
ask. Yeah, right. The body will tell you. You will try and go on. The body one day you can't. You might not be able to get out of bed. Issues with your digestion, all kinds of things. The body is screaming out, trying to tell you, I need a break, or so you need to listen. But the problem is that sometimes we don't listen, and we get to crisis point. We don't need to get there. I think it's like maintaining your car. You would put fuel in the car, wouldn't you? You wouldn't um make it run out, although it did happen to me once. I thought I had enough. I thought I could make it to work, and the car stopped in the middle
Whoop.
of the road. Yeah, that was a bit foolish on my part. But generally speaking, we take the car for maintenance because we don't want it to fall apart, and we have to treat ourselves with the same care. So that's the first thing. Please just acknowledge if you feel that things are not quite right, and that your stress levels have increased, you're not sleeping, your appetite has changed. Now, Danielle, just remind me the other part of that question, because I know you asked me something else and I'm going off.
Oh, no, you're fine. Just the preventative mental health.
Right.
Like what does that look like for someone who is caring for a loved one
Yes.
or has extra stress in their life?
That's it. Yeah. So acknowledgement is the first step, because you can't accept if you don't acknowledge. And I think because I hear people, we do have people what we call carers, who are looking after their spouse, or like you say, their child who may have additional needs, that kind of thing. And they're like, well, it's my child or it's my husband. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean you're not a caregiver, because that is a title actually that you should use, because it's the gateway to other services that you may be entitled to. So, for example, over here within services, we with our patients or clients, if we identify, you have a caregiver, we will also offer them some support. That might be through other agencies or community groups, that kind of thing. Because what I'm saying, Danielle, is that support for you is essential. You cannot, as we've heard this saying many, many times, but you can't pour from an empty cup. If
Right.
you become incapacitated, who's going to look after your child, your husband, your loved one? And what may have worked for you in the past may not work now. So yeah, you've been doing it for 10 years and you've always done it, and you no, but now you're getting older. Now you've got your own physical health complaints. You can't keep doing that. So where are you going to get help? Think of a contingency plan. If you have to go to the hospital, or you have to go overseas or something, who is going to look after your loved ones? Who is going to look after you? Your finances, all these things to consider. So in terms of burnout prevention, is we really have to be honest with ourselves. And I keep pressing this point, because a lot of the times we're in denial. We're in denial, and sometimes it's a sense of, I won't say pride, but it can be maybe feelings of guilt and or shame. Some caregivers feel like, well, I don't need somebody else to tell me how to look after my husband or my child. I don't want nobody coming in the house. I don't want nobody talking to me. I know what to do. Um, and I see this a lot, and they're like, no, they'll decline and refuse to serve. I'm like, okay. Now, 6 months later, Danielle, they're calling me up. Oh my gosh, I can take him. You need to take him. I can't manage.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm like, this could have been avoided. Now you're at your wit's end. You can't cope. And if you think about it, especially when we're talking about certain types of illnesses, if you're dealing with someone, especially if the person's an addict or they have something very challenging, they say they got, okay, back to dementia again. They have advanced dementia. They're wandering in the street, or they're have challenging behavior. They pulling a knife on you or something. Now, how do you expect you as one person to keep an eye on that other person 24 hours? You can. So that's why even in certain and I'm not saying put your put your folks in a home or anything, no. But I'm saying if the medical professionals struggle, how you think you're superwoman? How are you gonna manage? But anyway, so yeah, acknowledgement. Please get the support. There are community groups. There are other people who are also caregivers like you who are also maybe frustrated or struggling. And that's one thing I had to face as well, even with some members of my family, that guilt that says, well, you know, that's your love. Well, you should be doing more. You always feel like you should be doing more, but you can't always give more if you're trying to
It
raise a family and a home.
and it's a
So give
pride
yourself
thing too.
permission. Pride, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But give yourself permission to, and I think this is where boundaries are an essential part of self-care. How much access can a person have of you, even if that person is your family member, or how much access can your adult son who is an addict, can he be calling you 2 and 3 in the morning and you're going to jump in the car and give him money because he wants his next fix? Is that what we're doing? Or are we going to try and protect our own sanity and have some boundaries and try and get the professional help that person needs, because you're not a nurse, you're not, and even if you are, even if you work in the profession, because those of us in the profession are the worst culprits actually, because
Hmm.
we're qualified in that area, so we feel like we can manage it. Just be honest with yourself. That's all I'm saying. Be honest with yourself. And if you find that your daily functioning is disrupted, your sleep, the way you process things, you know, all of those things, just take a step back and um, seek the help that is available, even if it's to go to a support group or just to talk to somebody. You might need to vent. It might be say, well, I just changed the bed and he wet the bed again and I'm tired and I can't keep doing this. I'm fed up. I know it's not his fault because he doesn't know what he's doing, but I am tired and I have no help. That kind of thing.
Well, and just to know that it's okay to, number one, ask for help, and number two, to need it. It's
Mm,
okay to say, I'm tired, I need help. And I think a lot
mm,
of us uh, don't want to do that because of the shame and the pride that comes along with it. Like, I should be able to take care of my loved one. I should be able to do this. And any shortfall of that, and we start to feel like we're not enough. And we start to feel like there's something wrong with us. Like, why can't I do this?
mm.
I
And the
should be able
judgment.
to do, yeah, and we're judging ourselves, and we're dysregulating our own selves instead of just saying, throwing our hands up and saying, you know what? Okay, I and
Mm,
admitting I can't do this all on my own. I need help. So for
yes.
people to understand that that is okay is so huge,
Mm.
you know?
Not only is it okay, Danielle, it's essential.
Yeah.
I would say it's essential because the alternatives are quite devastating otherwise. So it's not just a nice to have. Oh, it's essential for your own health and well-being too, that
Yeah.
you seek the help and you acknowledge um, that you do need it in the first place. So yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely. And the people who truly love you won't judge you for it.
right. Although, Dania, you see at these times, during sickness, even death, you find sometimes your family members and close friends that they will make you question because you're like, I thought we were unified, but that's a time often where division can come. So for those who are caregivers, especially if you're female, the expectation is still that you should do all of that. I was speaking to a friend, he's an older man, and we have Caribbean roots. So there are certain cultural expectations, and he was like, "Yeah, I had to go over." And fly over to the Caribbean because I shouldn't have to do it because I'm a man and she's got daughters and she's got, this is not man's work. I'm like, well, what do you mean? That's your sister, isn't it? And you love your sister. So anybody can care for it. It doesn't just have to be a woman that
Yeah.
provides all the care. But I think he was a bit embarrassed and felt like, oh, I shouldn't have to do this. On a practical level, I do understand. So things like giving personal care, for example, to your loved ones. Yeah, if you're a male that and you're not, you're having to look after your sister or your daughter, yeah, that might feel a bit uncomfortable because you're trying having to bathe them, or if they're incontinent, you're changing their pads, whatever. I get that. That
Yeah.
that is yeah. But what I'm saying overall, Danielle, is that these times can bring divisions in families and in communities because of people's expectations about who's doing what, and what support should look like. And a lot of people end up falling out, and you know they don't talk. And then there's all this thing around finances. Who's going to pay for it? Who should bear the brunt of all of this? So yeah, that is why, in terms of prevention, Danielle, these things should be discussed in advance. It's like when you're getting ready for a battle. You don't wait till you're in the war to think, okay, what's the strategy? You
You're
must
right.
have already, yeah. And I say that because my mother, who is 80, she is I've been telling her for the last 20 years. And yeah, it's probably the work I do. I'm like, Mom, you need to sort out your will. You need to make what we call advanced health statements. So if you become incapacitated, what healthcare do you want? What is it that you want? Let us know your wishes and preferences. And her, from being from the Caribbean, she's like, oh my God, you're trying to kill me. You want to kill me. I'm like, Mom,
Yes,
no.
mom, we're trying to kill you.
Yeah, you want time and money. And so yeah, so you can't really have that conversation with her, but it is something that we should all. I mean, I try and my daughter's grown up now, but I try and talk about that. She's like, oh, she don't even want to hear it. She's like, you're being morbid. Oh my gosh, man, why are you talking about death? Why are you talking
Yeah.
about that? I don't want to think about that. But we
Yeah.
should. We should all have that conversation.
We should. I mean, death is a part of life and we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to think about it. But, the more communication, the better. We just went through this with my grandparents and, yeah, no one prepares you for what you go through when a loved one is dying and all of the things that come with it. You can, I don't know. I feel like you can plan only so much, but when the reality hits, I know we started really questioning, okay, did we do this? Did we do that? Okay, is everything in place? And it almost seemed eh, like there was always more. There was
Mhm.
always something else to consider. So it's super important that you at least get the big stuff out of the way and, communicated within the family. So when the little stuff comes up, that's not just one more thing added to the plate.
Exactly.
So I know we had talked before about this forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. It's the Kintsugi principle. And that
Yeah.
is okay. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, go on, Danielle. That's it. Go on, girl.
Woohoo! Can you talk a little bit about that and how that plays into your work?
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, it's based on I mean, I wrote a book about it a couple of years ago called Arise Kintsugi Queens, and yeah, based on that very principle. Kintsugi's a Japanese art form, but it's more than that. It's a way of life. So you may have seen it, Danielle, where broken pieces of pottery, or what you call a vase. If we break it, we throw it away. You're not going to try and glue the thing back together, but they do, and they recreate it, making something so much more beautiful with the gold lacquer. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have seen it.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, with the gold um cracks. So all of those cracks are really, it's a metaphor for life, Danielle, in terms of we all have imperfections and flaws, but really we don't lose value because just because we we think that we're broken, that we've had. So regardless of all the traumas, all the we've been through battered and bruised, that doesn't decrease your self-worth. And it's something to be embraced, because actually your scars make you who you are. So yeah, that's it. And it's helped me. And that's why I wrote the book, because it was about my journey, my healing journey, because if it wasn't certain family members, if I'd listened to them, I wouldn't have known that. I would have abandoned my own self and felt that I couldn't have achieved anything. I wasn't worth anything. So it's just to say, in spite of that, if no one ever tells you, you are still worthy, much in the same way, Danielle, if I give you a $50 bill and you accidentally drop it in the toilet, um, actually, let me ask you, Danny, if you have no money because and someone says, here you go, $50, and that's all you have to last you for the week.
Hmm.
You accidentally drop it in the toilet. What would you do?
Fish it out of the toilet.
Right, okay. So some wouldn't, but I would, because I don't have no shame. So
It's
yeah,
still $50. I mean, it didn't lose value because it fell on the toilet.
okay, that's it. That's the whole principle. So yeah, it still retains its values, and it's still legal tender. Well, for now, we're not completely digital, but you
Yeah.
dust it off and you spend it.
Yeah. Just don't
It
tell
would be,
anybody.
yeah, well, yeah, they don't have to know. They don't have to know. But
Yeah.
you wouldn't leave it there, would you? You wouldn't leave it
No,
in the toilet and flush it.
no,
Yeah.
no.
So yeah, so let's not do that with ourselves. Let's not discard ourselves because, oh my gosh, I don't care if you just got out of prison yesterday, Danielle, or if you were street walking last week. It doesn't matter what you were doing or where you've been. You might be a little bit rough and raw. That's okay. That's the beauty of you.
Hmm.
And your story, because I believe we all have a book in us. We all have a story to be told, to be written.
For sure.
But that what you went through was not just for you. It was to share for other people to learn and grow and be blessed by your situation. So yeah, that's it.
I love that. Yeah, you're not broken.
No.
And it cannot, and I mean, it can also be, yeah, so you were broken, but the pieces that get put back together are held together with something much more beautiful.
Right. That's it. Oh, see, Daniel, you put that so much more eloquently than me. Yes, that is it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're all gold.
Yeah.
We're all we're
Yeah.
all put together with gold.
That's it. And with any treasure, it's not you don't walk down the high street and just find rubies and pearls and all kind of thing just there. No, you have to mine them, don't you? You have to dig, dig, dig for the treasure because they're often buried in the
Oh yeah.
dirt. So yeah,
Oh yeah. I like that. Yep. Yep. You dig for treasure. And that's really what a healing journey is. You're digging for treasure.
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. What is the name of your book again?
Oh, but I've got many books now. The first, so
Mention
it's
them
the one that
all.
we're yeah, all of them. Arise, Kintsugi Queens. You are becoming all you were meant to be. So yes, that was my
And
debut.
where can we find it?
It's on Amazon, So if even if you Google, because I've it's, internationally available. So yeah, it's on Amazon. Just Google it, Arise Kintsugi Queens by Maz Alexander, and it will come up.
Nice.
So yes,
Okay,
I
I'll
hope
put the
it
link
helps
in the show
someone.
notes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So, before we wrap up here, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say, and I'm talking to myself whenever I'm talking to the listeners, it's also recognizing that we're consciously, well, I am consciously on a healing journey, and that means that I might live a whole lifetime without having arrived, but I get better with each passing day. I get better because I'm intentional about the journey. And I just want to say that please don't suffer in silence because of all the things that we talked about, Danielle, whether it be shame or guilt or feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't authentically express that I am struggling and I'm drowning. Please find those your tribe because there
Yeah.
always is, and that might not look like your family because it's hard to heal in the places where you've been oppressed. So please seek those places out. There are communities, there are groups, books that you can read, coaches like Danielle who can help you facilitate the process. So I would just say, please do not suffer in silence because it can be a killer, really. And
Yeah.
life doesn't have to be lived only in survival mode. You can actually thrive. You can excel in life. You can know something other than the dysfunction that you were born into. And that was my life for a long time. So you can break out and sort of disrupt family traditions and things that no longer serve you. So please reach out and connect and get the support you need.
Very well said. Yes. Please reach out. You are not alone. This is not an island. What does the future hold for Maz?
Gosh, Daniel, that's deep. Who knows? I yeah, you know what? I just want to continue to grow, and as I grow, it's like Brené Brown says, isn't it? If often we think we have it, we think everyone else has it all together. We compare, don't we? But actually, if we were honest and we lay our problems and everything down, we'd say, "Oh, that happened to you. That me too." That's what we would say, isn't it? Because unfortunately, our traumatic experiences, our adversities are not so uncommon. But the future means for me continuing on the healing journey. And it's like onions, isn't it? Layers of
Hmm.
onions. You sometimes it's two steps forward, 10 steps back. But yeah, I'm gonna continue. I don't know if there's other books in the mix, but I'll continue coaching. I'll continue supporting people. I'll continue being crazy. Um and doing all the craziness. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I can only tell you now because I don't know, especially in this crazy world that we live in, but I'm going to be a beam of love. I'm gonna
Yay.
I'm gonna try and emulate the love
Yeah.
and and just encourage people. And I'll remind myself of that anytime I have road rage as well. When I forget to be loving. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
I need to remember
Yes.
that too. I get road rage a lot. I don't even want to drive here. I'm in Phoenix, so
Oh.
traffic is so horrible here. But I digress. So where can we find you? What are your socials? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
On the street corner on a Friday, perhaps. But when I'm not doing that, you can find me online. So yeah, look, I tell you what, look, I'm Maz Alexander. That's my name on LinkedIn. If you want to connect, feel free. If you disagree with anything I said, let me know too. I love a good debate.
There you
But
go.
yeah, Instagram, and I'm going to give you the link, Danielle, to put in there. But
Okay.
Instagram, Mass Transformational Coaching, and you can see all of my craziness on there. So there we go.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so, 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 so much for being here today, all the way from across the pond. I really, really appreciate your outlook and all of the information that you shared here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So thanks for hanging out with us on Fine I'll Talk About It. If today's episode got you thinking, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you want more real talk, more perspective shifts, and more finally someone said it moments, leave a quick review. It helps other people find the show. And you can connect with me on Instagram at Inspired Action Wellness or inspiredactionwellness.com for more conversations like this. We'll see you in the next episode.